Hey everyone, Repose here. I wanted to make a little video talking about some feedback I got from my Is Dark and Darker Dying video, as well as some thoughts on recent statements SDF has been making in his Discord. This video is going to be a lot less edited than the one I made titled Is Dark and Darker Dying, and it's just going to be more of me ranting about what I think is going on with the game, and my thoughts on some changes they plan, as well as the future of this game. So first thing I want to say is, a lot of people have been commenting on my videos or coming to my stream and they're kind of just saying like, good shit bro, you got duos and solos removed from their game, fuck you. On that point, I just want to say in my video that the queues were only one of the issues that I wanted to talk about out of several, and even in that video I didn't say removing solos and duos was the best choice. I just said that there is too many queues on the game and there's a lot of ways to go about reducing that. Removing one of the game modes, whether it's solos, duos, or trios, I think would be an option, or they could try map rotation or even some other system I haven't thought of. After thinking about it a lot, I do think that removing solos is probably the worst thing they could do if they want to retain the current player count of the game. If you remove solos, I think most solo players are just going to quit flat out. Some of the solo players would move to trios probably, or they would just play solo in the trios queue. But yeah, I could definitely see most of them just quitting. I mean, I play a lot of solos and I'd be sad to see it go. But at the same time, I don't think they would ever remove trios. I don't even think removing trios is necessarily a bad option. If they wanted to do that, I think it could work, but I can't see them ever making that choice. So it comes down to, if you want to reduce the amount of queues by removing a party size, is it either solos or duos? And in my opinion, you leave solos and you get rid of duos at that point. But again, that's not even necessarily something they have to do. It's just an option to reduce the amount of queues. Other than that, I do want to talk about what SDF has been saying in his cooking channel in the Discord, and talk about some changes that they've been pushing to the TUS server. So SDF's been sharing a lot of thoughts in his cooking channel, and he has some big plans for this game. So on the TUS server, I think if you look at the TUS server, this is supposed to be basically SDF's vision for the game. There's only trios queue on every map, arena's always up, and the items have been changed to a state similar to patch 69. Basically, the way items work is, let's say you have green riveted gloves, they give 3 strength, and that's it. There's no other modifiers or anything. And if you get blue riveted gloves, they have 4 strength, and no modifiers, anything like that. And that's the way that he wants to move items towards. Maybe not exactly like that, but yeah, the way in the TUS server is green riveted gloves 3 strength, blue 4 strength, purple 5, legendary 6, unique 7, no modifiers. Just the base stat increases. So that is similar to how we had it on patch 69, which was a patch hated by a lot of people, but also some people liked it. Definitely a lot of differing opinions on that. But I do want to say, like, people have been talking about SDF's vision and how it's going to kill the game, how everyone's going to leave. And I think SDF knows that a lot of people are going to quit the game. I think that the idea of his vision is that he just wants to rebuild the game from his original plan, and he doesn't want to deviate from it in any way. People are trying to argue with him that, like, the game's gonna die, everyone's gonna quit when they do this, but I feel like he's kind of just expecting that to happen. I'm not saying I agree with it. I think, honestly, it's a horrible idea, because I don't really, given Iron Mace's track record on the game, I just can't see how they would bounce back from a player count decrease of this size. But I do think that SDF is expecting the player count to go way down once he implements these changes. Because to be clear, basically they're removing solos and duos and leaving only 1 queue for every party size, which is going to be a massive hit to the player count, obviously. And he's also removing pretty much the only endgame grind of this game, which for me and a lot of other players is farming BIS items. Because it seems like we're nerfing items down to a point where they don't really matter that much. I won't lie, like, there are some upsides to that, because if they nerf items, RMTing is going to be a lot less of an issue. It'll probably just not be an issue at all, depending on what the state of the items are. And then if RMTing isn't a problem, then there's going to be way less hackers, because a lot of people cheat to get really hard to find items or hard to get items, and then they just sell those items for real money for decent prices because the items are rare, right? So, like, in theory, that's not a horrible idea, but considering there's not really any other endgame grind other than trying to get BIS kits, trying to make certain builds with these items, it seems like a really bad change. Yeah, as I said, I think SDF is sort of expecting that, and he's just going to go through with it anyway. I think the problem with that, though, is that SDF seems to attribute almost all of this game's problems from straying from the original vision, worrying about the balancing of the game, worrying about having all these different queues or whatever. But I think the reason the player count has been going down isn't because of these things like the items being too strong or having too many queues. I don't think that's the reason for the player count decrease. I think the bigger reason for the player count going down is another thing that I covered in the video that I made, which is the updates for this game are extremely slow and they don't actually develop the core systems of the game. I think the argument that SDF makes, right, is that he has trouble developing core systems or working on content because he's trying to fix issues created from having all these queues or having these items be so strong. But I can't see how those are stopping him from working on core systems in the game, like the inventory system, a social space being in the game, you know, maybe some kind of guilds or something, or like blocking being addressed. Like, I don't see how the issues of having too many queues or having items be too strong affect that in any way. And I think those issues are probably the main reason that a bunch of people have left the game. I'm sure a lot of people have quit because they don't like getting gear diffed at all, and maybe some people have had some dead lobbies because we have all these queues and they quit the game. But I don't think those are the main reasons that the player count has been going down. But like I said earlier, I don't really think SDF cares too much about that. He's expecting the player count to go down, and he's going to rebuild the game from the ground up, essentially, following his vision. The question is, how many players are going to stick around to see this vision, and will the game even survive these drastic changes? So, like, me personally, if you want to know my opinion, I think removing solos is a really, really bad idea. I think reworking the items could work. They could make the items similar to patch 69. If there's just some other endgame grind to pursue, or like something to do on the game, I think it could work. But I don't have much faith in Iron Mace at this point to create something like that. But I mean, it'd be great if I was proven wrong and they just release a bunch of cool stuff to grind for, and there's, you know, all this content to interact with and engage with. But yeah, I'm just used to seeing these number changes in the patch notes over and over, just adding something, reverting it, adding it back, reverting it, adding it back. Like, I don't want to be too doomer about the game, but with what we've seen so far, I don't really think this game is gonna survive a complete overhaul like that. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like SDF is pretty committed to it, and yeah, maybe it'll work. Maybe the game it'll drop off at first in player count, and then it'll bounce back. Or maybe it's just going to be the end of the game, you know? I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. But yeah, those are some thoughts on some of the feedback that I've been reading, as well as reacting to SDF's thoughts in the Discord. But I mean, hopefully this game survives. Hopefully the vision works out. We'll see. Peace.